wars of the 20th century were prophesied in 1788.
Carnival does not mean a celebration.
An orchestra uses 2 cannons for bass.
Can you imagine that? This is Lindsay McCarry back with another gathering of out-of-the-way news articles and facts with which to make you say, can you imagine that? And until we all return in 1 minute and a half, we hope you'll be waiting. I've heard many warnings during the past years to keep yourself on the lookout for con men and women, confidence operators whose nefarious vocation comprises the bilking of unsuspecting victims out of as much money as they can bilk. Modern police methods and radio have probably done more to reduce the number of victims of con games than anything else during the past few years. But time was when these gentle grafters really plied their trade with a vengeance. For instance, I ran across a situation that occurred in San Francisco in the month of March 1917. One day in police headquarters.
Okay. Who's next here?
I'm next. I've got it.
Now, wait a minute. One at a time. All right, you. What's your trouble?
Me, I'm a losing money. This man, he come to
Now,
my
wait
store.
a minute. What's your name?
Abella. John Abella. This man, he's a come into my fruit store on a Santa Barbara Avenue. He's a come in on a Wednesday. He's a buy $1.05 worth of a fruit. And he's a give me a check. This is a check right here.
Yeah.
He's a give me this check for $19.75. Now, I look into my money drawer, and I've got $8.70 of cash. He says, that's all right. I come back tomorrow for out of $10. Then he's a go away. I think to myself, he's a fine fella. He's a very nice man. He trusts Abella for $10. He's a nice fella.
Yeah. You sent the check to the bank, and it came back marked insufficient funds. Is that it?
Yeah, sure. That's it. That's what happened. Now, I want you to find this man and get my money.
Okay, we'll see what we can do. Now, what's your trouble?
I'll tell you, Sergeant. I want you to find a gypsy for me.
A gypsy?
Yeah, you see, a couple of months ago, I went to this gypsy fortune teller up on Howard Street, and she told me that I was going to have a run of good luck, and that pretty soon, in about 8 weeks, I was going to get married, inherit $500, and get established in business. She told me I should leave all my valuables with her for safekeeping.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I gave her my gold watch and my purse.
Oh, well, how much was in the purse?
$225. Well, I went back 8 weeks later, and she was gone.
Yeah, and I thought she would be. All right, what's your name and where do you live?
Well, my name is Gus Harris, and I live at a 49...
Can you imagine that? Poor Gus Harris and John Abella reported their losses in the same police headquarters in San Francisco on the same day. I think it's probably safe to assume that John Abella posted a sign in his fruit store reading, "No checks cashed," and that Gus Harris assiduously avoided any future contact with gypsy fortune tellers. Well, that certainly sounds like someone is having a high time, doesn't it? In fact, it sounds like a carnival. And just what do you think of when someone mentions the word carnival? Of course, you think of gay revelry, of mysterious masked and glamorous ladies whose eyes shine laughingly through the holes in their masks. You think of streamers of colorful serpentine streaming from windows, showers of confetti getting into your mouth and eyes. But do you know what the word actually means? Well, it comes from 2 Latin words. The first is carne, meaning meat. The second is vale, meaning farewell. Literally, then, carnival means farewell to meat. Carnival was first used to denote the days of merrymaking, feasting, and general hilarity that preceded the Lenten fast days. It was a period when the people let off steam in a riot of fun and frolic that had to last them through the 40 days of self-denial and reverent living before Easter. The famous New Orleans Mardi Gras is exactly the same thing, for it precedes the period of Lent. Today, of course, we use the word carnival for any celebration where costumes are worn. So just remember that when you say you are going to a carnival, that what you really say is that you are going to a farewell to meat party. Can you imagine that? Our next little item we submit as neither for nor against soothsaying, fortune-telling, nor astrology. I'm going to report it just as I read it. It was in October of 1937 that Maurice Pivot, the French seer, cast the horoscope for the year 1938. Among other things, he said, and mind you, he said this in October of 1937.
It's in the stars. I can read them and tell you the future. And what I see for 1938 is baleful, evil. For here I can read the signs that tell of disaster. In particular, do I read a sad fate for the nation, Austria. I see her lost her independence in 1938 during the first quarter of the year. On March the 14th of next year, 1938, she will have reached the climax of her affairs. She will no longer exist as a nation.
Thus wrote the French seer Maurice Pivot in October 1937. And on March 14 of the year 1938, Hitler's troops and Adolf Hitler himself marched into Vienna. Can you imagine that? But that isn't all I've dug up in the way of prophecy. Kept in the Viennese University Library under the catalog number I246341 is a little booklet or brochure. It is mellowed and yellow with age, for it was first published in the year 1788. A Polish monk was the author. Well can we imagine the old monk gazing out into the limitless expanse of the sky, watching the stars flicker, his senses attuned to some weird, mysterious influence. At his feet sits a neophyte, listening in breathless wonder as he hears the voice of the old monk, deep, vibrant, calling off the prophecies he has seen.
My son, there will come to pass many things. I see in the year 1793, I see a man who was once a king mounting a scaffold to feel the merciless cold knife of an instrument of execution. His name is Louis the 16th of France.
But, Father, how can you see those things when this is but 1788?
I know not, except that it is given to me to tell. Then I see a bloody war between France and Austria in 1805. Then I see plague sweeping all Europe. I see carts and tumbrils carrying away the dead. That will be in 1889.
And then what, Father, after that?
My son, be glad you live now. Be glad that God has not given you life in the 20th century, for that will be the accursed century when brother shall kill brother, when terror shall rain from the skies and sweep all the earth, when men shall kill, never satisfied until they have driven each other like beasts of the field into savagery and bloody agony. God help them.
Father, tell me, does your prophecy see no peace? No peace at all?
Someday, man will know that to kill and make war is not to correct the ills and evils of the world, but that he shall not learn until far into the 20th century, until the year 1986.
Thus, in the year 1788, wrote and prophesied an old Polish monk in his Salem monastery. He foretold the murder of King Gustav III of Sweden. He prophesied the partition of his own country, Poland, in 1793 by Prussia and Russia, the French revolutions of 1830 and 1848, the burning of Moscow in 1812. Well, we leave it to you. Was the old monk astute and politically shrewd enough to realize cause and effect upon the human race? Were his prophecies based on cold calculations arrived at through a brilliant deduction? Did he base future happenings on the happenings of the past? Or did the stars whisper these things to him as he gazed up at the inscrutable sky? At any rate, in 1788, he accurately and positively foretold the future. Can you imagine that? Now for our sally into the musical world for this part of Can You Imagine That? This time I've dug up a novelty which I think will amuse you. It doesn't have to do with the writing of a certain song, nor does it concern itself with how a popular song may sound like one of the classics. Instead, it's all about a house party and a housewarming that was given by Mr. Jacob Lease at Yerba Buena, California, on July 4th, 1836. The details were very kindly furnished to me by the Bancroft Library of the University of California at Berkeley. Mr. Lease hurried the building of his house, which was one of the first two to be erected at Yerba Buena, and helped to form the beginning of the city of San Francisco. To the housewarming were invited the most prominent families. To it came the stately Spanish Dons, the Castro family, the Martinez, and the famous Mexican general, M.G. Vallejo. In gay, colorful costumes they came. They marveled at Mr. Lease's house, which the records say was 60 feet long and 25 feet broad. And in those 1836 days, it was a very giant of a structure. But I guess you're wondering where the musical portion comes in. Well, it seems that Mr. Lease's partner, Captain Hinckley, commanded the American bark Don Quixote, which was lying at anchor in the cove. The men from the bark came ashore, and with them they brought an orchestra. Where did they get the orchestra? That's easy. Captain Hinckley had a passion for dulcet sounds, and he always carried an orchestra with him that consisted of a clarinet, a flute, a violin, a drum, a fife, and a bugle. It was possibly the most stylish orchestra ever heard in California up to that time. But to make it even more imposing, Captain Hinckley borrowed 2 small 6-pound cannons from the Presidio to form the base. Can you imagine that? Now, it puzzled us no little to try to find out just what piece it would be that required 2 6-pound cannons for the base. We weren't able to find out, but we've used our imaginations, and we've concocted what we think is a good imitation of that early Yerba Buena orchestra playing, well, you listen and see if we haven't made a good choice of a number. Yes, sir. Pop Goes the Weasel does seem the logical song to need 6-pound cannons for its base. Well, now it seems time has come for me to turn you over to your own announcer, and until we see you again soon. Until then, this is Lindsay McCary saying goodbye now.
Animals have a field day in New Jersey.
Kisses pay off a $5,000 debt.
A song was written about a champ's remark.
Can you imagine that? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is Lindsay McCary back again with another assorted collection of odd facts and news items with which to amuse and entertain you for a while. Until my cohorts and I return in just a minute and a half, we hope you'll wait, won't you? You've all heard the old song about the animal fair. It seems that all the birds and the beasts were there. Well, in the first part of the month of August, 1926, the state of New Jersey had an animal fair all its own. It was on August 5th that the phone rang in police headquarters in Middleton, New Jersey.
Police, Desk Sergeant speaking.
This is Oliver W. Holton, owner of the Twin Brook Zoo.
Yeah?
Look, there's a leopard loose from my zoo.
Huh? A leopard?
Yes, it's vicious. Escaped from a crate. You better warn everybody to look out for it because it's dangerous. Shoot to kill if you can't capture it. I'll offer a $100 reward, dead or alive.
Yes, sir. Higgins, Mallory, Cassidy.
Yes, sir.
There's a leopard loose someplace. We got to get it.
But Saturday, August 7th rolled around, and the spotted killer was still on the loose, roaming the Red Bank countryside. The reward went up to $500, and rifles were loaned by the National Guard to nearly 100 men. The hunt was on. But meanwhile, still in New Jersey, on August 9th in Pompton Lake.
Say, ain't that a dog howling?
Yep. Been hearing it for quite a spell now. Wonder what's the matter with it.
Let's take a look outside, Joe. Sounds like it's pretty close.
Okay.
Say, there it is. That collie right over there. Hey, get away from there. Shut up.
He ain't gonna get. He's staying right there.
Well, I'll... Say, look. Running a little piece, then stop still. He wants us to follow him.
Yep. Come on, let's get Sam and Cole. That dog might have found the leopard that's running loose. Come on, we'd better get a couple of guns just in case.
A half a dozen citizens followed the frantic dog, following him to a mud hole where they stopped.
See anything, Joe?
Nope, nary anything, Ed.
Well, that dog sees something.
Hey, look, Ed. Look in the center of the mud hole.
A cow.
Yeah.
Stuck in the mud with only her head showing. Come on, get the others. We'll get her out of there. Poor critter.
All right, come on, boys. Let's get out of there.
Anxious to help, the collie jumped into the mud hole and promptly got stuck, right in the way of the cow's rescuers. First the dog had to be pulled out, and then the cow. Can you imagine that? But that isn't all about New Jersey's Animal Fair of August 1926. It was on August 11th that Leon Shoulder of Elizabeth, New Jersey, was taking his pet chimpanzee for a walk when...
Now, take it easy. Take it easy. You'll...
Hey! Oh, my gosh, he slipped out of the leash. Hey, somebody catch that chimp. Somebody catch him. Get after him down there. Get after him.
Spurred on by yells and commotion, the chimp raced down the streets, through alleys. Every once in a while, he eased the strain on his feet by swinging through trees and dropping to earth in front of frightened citizens. He bit 3 of his pursuers, and then...
Gosh, I'm glad you got here, boys. I think I've got that chimpanzee cornered in the cellar at 309 Center Street. Just give me a hand, and we'll have him in no time.
We'll take care of it, mister. Better let the police handle this. This is no job for you.
What you mean? It ain't a job for me. Say, I guess you don't know I'm the dog catcher around here.
The two officers and Mr. Houck cornered the wandering chimpanzee in a cellar, where Mr. Houck tossed a dog-catching net over the slipping simian, and the chase was over. One more chapter had been written in the August 1926 saga of the New Jersey galloping animals. But one more was to follow. In Orange, a little dog decided to chase a cat, but forgot that the cat was smaller and a bit more agile. The cat slithered between 209 and 211 Main Street. The dog followed it, only to find that the space between the two buildings, although ample for Kitty, was just a little too small for himself, and he was soon held fast. A few moments later, the phone rang in an Orange police station.
Yeah, Orange police station.
Hey, there's a dog stuck between two buildings, 209 and 211 Main Street. You better get him out.
Okay, I'll send somebody. Thule, Grath, you two are the skinniest cops around here. Go down to 209 Main Street and get a dog out that's stuck between two...
The two officers went, but the dog was stuck fast. The officers made funny little noises like a cat, tossed ropes, and did everything to get the dog out, but it was useless. The fire department was called and a ladder lowered between the two buildings. The dog refused to climb the ladder, but was eventually rescued by slipping a hooked pole under his collar. And that about ends New Jersey's animal fair. In the 7 days between August 5th and 12th, New Jersey had a loping leopard, a quagmired cow, an over-enthusiastic collie, a chasing chimpanzee, and a wedged-in dog. Can you imagine that? Well, here's an odd way to clear up a debt. From a newspaper of December 1, 1909, comes a story about the Temple of Emmanuel in Chicago, Illinois. It seems that a debt of $5,000 had accrued. After a conference, it was decided to hold, of all things, a kissing bee. Can you imagine that? More than a score of girls, each of them a pretty miss, volunteered their services. Said their leader,
"The girls will line up in a corner of a hall, which will be known as Smacksville. Kisses will be 50 cents each, and no one man will be allowed more than $1's worth from one girl. If the men want to kiss more than that, they will have to take their money's worth by kissing all the girls."
Of course, the various kinds of kisses came up for discussion. Some girls said the kiss should be limited to a platonic peck upon the cheek, but, said one practical miss,
"Nonsense. What man will pay 50 cents to kiss a girl on the cheek? We won't do any business at all."
and so it was agreed to take a chance with the more amorous of the kiss purchasers who might try to get more than 50 cents worth of osculation by prolonging the kiss. Said the spokeswoman of the girls,
This won't be any love affair. This is purely a business proposition to lift the debt on the temple. I'm sure we can charge 50 cents per kiss because it's worth every bit of it. I've always hated mustaches, but I'll take a chance on them for the good of the temple. No girl will be allowed to sell more than 400 kisses.
"We salute the genius of the person who thought up the plan of selling kisses at 50 cents each to liquidate a debt of $5,000. For the musical portion of this Can You Imagine That, we're going to present another of those interesting song stories. That is, we're going to tell you how a certain song was written. The title of our lesson today is I Wonder Who's Kissing Her Now. This famous old song was written, as you probably know, by Frank R. Adams and Will M. Huff. But how? Well, it seems that Mr. Adams and Mr. Huff were collaborating on a new musical show, The Prince of Tonight. During this collaboration, Adams gave a party at his summer home in White Lake, Michigan. Among the friends he invited were two young ladies who were known to be chums. Came the night of the party, and...
Well, I was just beginning to give up hope. I thought you weren't coming.
Oh, no, Mr. Adams. I wouldn't miss your party for the world.
Good girl, good. Oh, you know Mr. Huff, of course.
How do you do?
How do you know? I'd begin to give up hope, too. But now we can have a real party with such a charming guest.
Your compliments sound a great deal like lyrics for a song, Mr. Huff.
He's got you there, Will. Oh, where's your friend? I thought she was coming with you.
Oh, she had a previous engagement. She asked me to thank you and excuse her.
Well, that's too bad. Well, come along and I'll introduce you to some of the people you haven't met. Coming, Will?
Yes, I think I will. And incidentally, I'm going to put in my bid for the first dance.
Well, it may be that the young girl wasn't having a very good time. We don't know. At any rate, we find her later out on the veranda in the moonlight with the wind singing a romantic song through the trees. Perhaps she thought of her absent friend who had a date, maybe with a handsome lad down from Yale in bulldog shoes, peg-top trousers, and a calabash pipe. While she was on the veranda, Adams and Huff were standing nearby talking.
Well, Will, we've got to get out the lyrics for that one song.
I've been writing lyrics in my sleep. I can't seem to get a good theme, a good start.
Oh, never mind. We've been stuck before, but we've come out of it all right.
Say, Frank, our young lady seems to be a bit lonely without her friend.
Or it may be we're just a little too old for her, Will. Let's go over and cheer her up.
All right.
Here.
Oh.
What kind of business is this? Pretty girl like you standing out here alone. I'll fix that up during the next dance.
Oh, thank you.
You seem to be down in thought.
Oh, yes, I guess I was dreaming a little. Maybe it's absurd, but I was thinking about my chum. I guess I'm different than she is. But everywhere she goes, she seems to have such a good time. So many gentlemen friends. While I guess I was just meant to be a wallflower. I wonder who's kissing her now. Oh, now, isn't that silly of me? Excuse me, please. I'll be back in a moment.
Yes, certainly.
Frank, did you hear that?
I heard it, Will. I wonder who's kissing her now.
I think that's it, Frank. I think that's it. I wonder who's kissing her now.
I wonder who's looking into her eyes, breathing sighs.
Telling lies. That's it. That's it.
I wonder who's kissing her now. Just a chance remark, but it was enough to start Adams and Huff on the lyrics to a song that was destined to sweep the country. Oddly enough, when the song was put in the show, The Prince of Tonight, the management and the principals concentrated on other songs which they thought would get the most applause from the audience and almost ignored I Wonder Who's Kissing Her Now. Can you imagine that?
I wonder who's kissing her now. I wonder who's teaching her how. Wonder who's looking into her eyes, breathing sighs, telling lies. I wonder who's buying the wine for lips that I used to call mine. I wonder if she ever tells him of me. I wonder who's kissing her now. I wonder who's buying the wine for lips that I used to call mine. I wonder if she ever tells him of me. I wonder who's kissing her now.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the song that made a nation hum and was built around the chance remark of a young lady who envied her chum. Can you imagine that? Well, now, before I turn you over to your own station announcer, I'd like to say this is Lindsay McCary bidding you goodbye now.